All right. Okay. So today we are going to start. Okay. Today we have teacher Ming Thong and myself. All right, teacher Joe. Okay. I'm going to start with the. Hey, I haven't seen you for a long time. Is it your boy who's attending or the mommy? Too much homework. Okay. Okay, I'm going to just start with the introduction. Sorry, I got distracted. Okay, I saw some familiar faces. Okay, let me just introduce myself. Okay, everybody. Okay, I'm teacher Joe. Yes, I always tell the children I'm the prettiest teacher in Singapore and some say part-time. Okay, don't fight with me. Okay, yeah, this is my. I always tell the kids that. Okay, but no, jokes aside. Okay, I've been teaching science for over more than actually coming 16, 17 years already, I think. And I love science very much. I'm very passionate about science. Okay, so during my maternity leave, there was one time teacher Faith texted me and asked me, what are you doing now? And I told her, I'm doing science question in the assessment book. During my maternity leave. So I love science very much. Okay, everywhere I go, I see science. Okay, I take a personal also interest into climate change articles. All right, and I always tell the children, we learn science because you need to be able to find the solutions for today's problems, right? So this is always what it is about science. So I hope to be able to inspire the children, you know, to learn, to be curious about science, and then so that they can also challenge their own thinking about the world, right? Okay, teacher Ming Thong, your turn.
Okay, hi everyone. Joe, can you just click on my credentials? Thanks.
Of course, yes.
Okay, everyone. Like teacher Joe, I also have a lot of interest in science. I've also been teaching science for quite a few years. Precisely in secondary school for more than 10 years, and then for the last 3.5 years, I was actually HOD of science in the primary school. I just joined the school learning center recently, but I'm proud to be part of the family. I think one of the key interests for me from young is actually that I see a lot of science in a lot of areas. One part that intrigued me was Hollywood movies, was the Hong Kong movies, and I see a lot of stunt, a lot of action. And the science from that onwards actually spurred me to pick up science as a study, as well as even when I graduated, right? I also actually spent quite a bit of time in science. That's why it's always been my interest to teach students, and I want to teach them more and make sure they are ready for the very near and the very future. All right, so that's my mini intro. So everyone, thanks for showing up today, and let's move on to the next slide.
Okay, I realized a bad news about my camera. Okay, I will fix it later. Okay, everybody. Y'all look at teacher Ming Thong's handsome face. Okay. Okay. So this is teacher Ming Thong. Teacher Ming Thong must continue with your story.
Right. So you can see on the left side of the screen, right? Those are my secondary school students who graduated. I'm quite proud to see quite a few of them. When I was looking back at this profile picture, right, and then sending and sharing with everyone, right, I see quite a few of them have done well. One of them has taken up youth flying, who started with me as a science student. Today, he's a youth flying club president. And you see the picture on the bottom there. Many of my students who graduated, amongst them, quite a few have become SAF scholars, as well. Even some of them has moved on to NUS and NTU. Quite a few has gone overseas as well. On the right,
I didn't know this. Impressive.
Yeah, but it's not due to me, but I was quite happy to see that they have become part of a science fraternity in Singapore. And then you see the little picture on the screen, the one where there are a lot of students. That was part of the enrichment program. It's a pet rocket launched by the students, primary 5 going to primary 6 students, and they were enjoying science enrichment. And I'm proud to tell you that when you open your eyes to the wonders of science, these are the future people who will believe in science and executioners of science. All right, so let's move on.
Okay, all right. Okay, parents, if you're unable to see the screen, do rejoin again, okay? Because sometimes it could be the Zoom instead of us. Yeah, thank you. We have, wow, very good. We got quite a number of parents. Yeah, 3-figure already, 3-figure, almost 200 already. Very good. Okay, invite your friends to join, okay? Because today we got lots of good things to share. All right, okay. So a lot of children ask why blue tree, why not pink tree, purple tree, green tree, okay? So BlueTree, because the color blue is the color of wisdom and clarity. And we want our children to have that, not only in knowledge, but also in their character. Yes, we will share the screen, the recording. Okay, Ruth? All right. And now, of course, tree, right, is a firm foundation in skills and knowledge, right? And we want to share also our philosophy. We want to educate the world, student, parents, teacher, everyone, okay? And we believe in it's possible to create a future generation of critical thinkers, right? And this is our teaching philosophy, the 3E framework, which is explore, explain, and extend, right? Okay, it's very important for all of you here to understand because the 3E framework is the one that is the core of BlueTree's curriculum. So we actually take really time to do experiment, to let your child experience, okay, how science is in real life application. We don't believe in just pure pen and paper because we know that children are curious, they deserve the authentic learning experience. So like here you can see we have the 3 different materials, okay, and the teachers, right, in BlueTree really spend a lot of good time, all right, in preparation, you know, and preparing good questions and experiments for the child. And of course, explain, right, we will talk about different types of question. And again, you can see this is a typical experiment type question. And finally, of course, we have done our job very well when the children can extend, all right, their learning to real life application, okay, like this frozen sausage, how do they quickly, you know, thaw it, you know, so there are various ways, you know, that the children came up with, okay, some of them will say, throw it, step on it, break it, you know, all these are good ways, practical ways, you know, to solve the problem. So we don't discourage our children, okay, we don't tell them that no, it's wrong, okay, we don't do this, okay, because science is all about exploring, you know, finding alternative solution. Who knows, one of their solution may become really the world's solution next time, right? So this is our E3 framework, okay. So this is one of the testimonial. So I say I wasted the sausages. Yeah, it's okay. All in the love for science, spirit of science is okay. Okay, so this is one of our testimony about one of our students. Okay, he is a very treasured student of ours. Okay, in fact, he was from the previous school of teacher Meng. Okay, so yeah, he became one of the top students later on in the school. Okay, he is now doing so well in secondary school. We're enormously proud of his achievement. Okay, okay, so are you ready? Okay, so take out your notebook, all right, your pen and pencil. Teacher Meng is going to bring you through. Okay, Teacher Meng, over to you.
Let's see the next screen. Okay, boys and girls and parents, you look at this question, right? This is from 2021. It's PSLE question 37A. It's on the topic of energy. Now, the question says this: parents drill a small hole at the bottom of a pail and hung it above a plate. They filled the pail with water and let the water drip from the hole onto the plate as shown. A sound sensor recorded the sound made by the water droplets. And this was followed by a diagram. It was followed also by a graph. And you'll notice this graph shows a few big peaks, very high peaks, and it also shows some small peaks you can see at the bottom of the graph. And that is for some of us who studied science before or familiar with the engineering thing, you know that this is noise. So the first question was actually asking, state the number of water droplets that fell on the plate in the first 30 seconds. And to the educated eyes of the parents, right, you say, oh, first 30 seconds, I must quickly narrow down to the first 30 seconds. And you can see on the screen, right, we actually circle the 3 big peaks, correct? Now, the 3 big peaks is obviously the correct answer. So the answer should be 3. So to the teachers and the students who are looking at the screen, right, you say, it's a simple question. But I was involved in the marking, and one of the things that hit me hard, right, was some students came out and said, the answer is about 24. And that took me by surprise. When I was marking this question, I was thinking, 24? How did they manage to think there are 24 droplets falling on the plate? And I realized they actually look at the small peaks. You see the pencil mark that's indicating them. They actually counted the little peaks at the bottom and thinking those are water droplets as well. Although I never did find out why the children think that way, my assumption is that they think that there's small peaks there. It's actually small water droplets. And the big peaks are the big water droplets. That could be one of the misconceptions that the student had. And so, if you think about it, to some, this is a very straightforward, a simple question, but this is one of the mistakes that some of them made. And of course, some of them were careless enough to say the answer is 4 water droplets because they saw 4 water droplets on the screen and they just say, oh, the answer should be 4. So to the eyes of the student, they were reckless. They were running it very fast and they say, oh, the graph shows 4, the answer must be 4. Therefore, they ignore the parts that says the first 30 seconds. So parents, tell the students the question is always your best buddy. The graph is there to help you as well, and the picture is there to help you as well. But you please study the question carefully. First 30 seconds, there are students who have lost marks based on this. And you notice the question it says at the front right, it says state the number of water droplets. You will recognize that increasingly, there are more and more questions starting with the word state. In the past, there's the word explain or describe, but increasingly, there's this word state. So also educate the children, and hopefully those who are listening from P3 all the way to P6, please take note. The state is only, by the way, the very first starter. There could be a second statement that says state why or state how. So based on that, students, when you read the question, spend a few more seconds to understand the full question before you answer the first part. It is easy, but you'll be surprised at the mistakes students have made. All right? Teacher Joe, can we see the second question now? Now, the second question is asking, suggest why the sound level is not 0 between 10 and 15 seconds. This is the part where I think those who understood the graph, they will tell us, oh, can I click the answer? Let's show the students. The sound level could be the noise from the background. Now, those who saw the graph first time, right, they probably got it right. But there are some who I suspect don't understand the smaller, and they say the sound level came from the smaller water droplets. That has happened. So, so students, you must be careful, all right, in answering part B as well, all right? So let's move on to part C. Now, part C, it's a very popular way of asking the parents, isn't it? Using the same apparatus, suggest 2 changes to increase the maximum sound level recorded by the sound sensor. Now, parents and students are, even the P3, look at the diagram. It is actually not difficult to pick up the key points about how to answer this part. They show a water leaking from a small hole at the bottom of the pail. And using the same apparatus, suggest the 2 important changes to increase the maximum sound level recorded by the sound sensor. Now, using the same apparatus is very, very important. All right, it's very important. If you introduce any extra things there, it is not going to be marked correct. So the 2 answers, as you can see on the screen, the first one, hang the pail at a higher height. Now, the alert eyes of all of you, right, would have said, now, when I hang it at higher height, there's greater potential energy, which leads to greater kinetic energy, which then lead to a greater sound energy. Now, that is understood, right? Because the potential energy is dependent on the mass as well as the height. So that would have been sufficient as an answer. And the second one, this one, some got it, some don't. Place the sound sensor closer to the plate. All right. Now, I'm quite careful about this part. When you're writing this answer, you must mention very clearly it is close to the plate. Now, some of you will be wondering, why did Mr. Lim even say the word plate? Isn't it obvious? It is not obvious to some. Imagine if the student said, place the sound sensor nearer to the apparatus. What is the apparatus? Is it closer to the container on top? Is it to something else? Be specific in answer. Mention very clearly, place the sound sensor nearer to the plate. It is to your advantage, students, as well as parents, to take note. Your answer as specific as you can will give you a head start over answering this question. All right, this is something that I want everyone to take notes. When you answer so specifically, it is actually very, very important. All right, next, can I see the next page? Now, take a glance at the part where I put down in red. Answers that I suggest, I'm not saying it's not right, because the word using back the same apparatus doesn't mean I can't do things to it. For instance, make a larger hole, make many holes, change the plate, add more water, improve the sensitivity of the sound sensor, reduce the background noise. Now, I know many of you will be thinking, hey, apparatus is largely similar. Can I just tweak some of these things? Answer, my suggestion as I see now, let's try to be clear in our answering. Try to answer to the question. Let's not make changes to the apparatus unnecessarily. So when you don't make changes out of the blue, it's probably safer to answer to the question. And then when you answer it, when you look back at it later, when you're checking, you'll find that you have more confidence addressing this particular question. So parents, see how we are addressing the question, see how are we narrowing down to the final details of the answer. This is one way we can help the children to address an issue that sometimes when the students are rushing, right, they may not see the answer very clearly. So students who are listening, you have to make the extra effort, the extra mile to read the questions carefully. And when you look at the questions, even though it's just a few words, you would do well to actually understand and write the way I suggest, right? Next one, can we see the next one? All right, here's a question from the same question number 40. All right, now, this question is about a rocket launch. In fact, this is quite coincidental, isn't it? I was showing you something of a rocket launch, right? And this is actually something similar. Maybe that's the reason why intuitively I also added this question. Semi-compressed spring to launch a toy rocket in the room as shown, right? There was no wind. This one, I think some of you may have seen it. I think one of the students mentioned they saw it in PSLE booklet, well done. And they follow it up with the statement that the distance was measured by the rocket for each try, and his results were as recorded. And you notice here, you'll be surprised some students are actually confused by the two columns that say first try and second try. All right, and because they notice some simply think that, oh, did they launch two rockets? Some even that's what some students actually pondered. So, but if you understood the question, it would have meant that the rocket was launched not once but twice, the same rocket, because they have to keep the variable constant. It must be the same rocket. And then as you can see there, in the first try all the way to the second try, and then there's the compression of the spring, which means it was pulled back from 2, 4, 6, 8 centimeters, and then it was launched. The distance of the rocket was measured, and the distance was recorded, and then you see the results as shown. Next slide, please. So the question is, obviously, you can see that state the relationship between the compression of the spring and the distance measured by the rocket. Now, the compression, my suggestion to all, in fact, our suggestion to all the students and the parents is that whenever you see the relationship, try to use scientific way of writing. For instance, as the compression of the spring increases, the distance moved by the rocket increases. And for students who have gone through with us, also with the school, you would know by now, the compression of the spring, the compression is actually the independent variable. The distance moved is a dependent variable. Always put the independent variable in front and then the dependent variable in the back. This answer, there should be no contest about it. All right, next one, please. The second one. Now, there's this thing that says, name the forces acting on the rocket at G when it is moving up the ramp and not touching the spring. This question is tricky. Some of you, there are two parts that you must be careful. The first one says, name the force. And then they put an open parenthesis, S, then close parenthesis. So my students, when they see this question, they always ask this, Cher, is it one force or two forces? I also quite clear about this part. whenever a question asked in this manner, chances are there are likely two forces. I don't think they will be asking for three forces. So two forces is the most likely answer. So the student must be clear about this. And you notice the particular word that was highlighted at the end. It says not touching the spring. Here is the part that you must be very aware and very careful. The not touching the spring will affect some of the students' answer. You saw the answer written down there, right? Gravitational force / weight and frictional force. Now, there are three common weaknesses. Ma'am, you can click on it. I'll show you what it means. The first weakness, students frequently omit gravitational force and weight. And they will simply use frictional force. That's the first mistake. Remember I said name the force / forces. So they only stick to one answer and we just say frictional force, which I think most of them got it, but they'll miss the part on weights. And some even, well, I'm quite impressed with some students who use the word mass. You know, the mass and weight is kind of related, but mass, because the word is forces. And for those of us who know, right, mass is not considered a form of force. It's actually the amount of matter, the amount of matter. So it is different from the word force. It should not be the answer. So normally you have the question like this, right? And the forces is launched. It means the rocket launch is dependent on these two forces. And then there's the second part that some of you will put down and says that, oh, is there an elastic spring force? Well, in actual fact, there should be, right? If it is the spring launching. But don't forget, the question did mention is no longer touching the spring. So with that in mind, this answer should not be so-called a third answer. So think of this very carefully. The third part, now, I know some of you are intrigued by the word moving up the ramp. And suddenly, the word kinetic force come about. My suggestion is this. Kinetic force doesn't really exist, at least not in the syllabus the way we want to think. Kinetic force may be used casually overseas or even in some books and whatever. But in actual fact, we always associate kinetic with energy. Never introduce another term called kinetic force, which in this context should not exist. All right, let's see next part C. Now, and then they talk about this. Name the main forces of energy of the rocket at H. The answer is now. In PSLE, we try to stick to one answer. I mean, in this case, two answers now: potential energy and kinetic energy. Now, I know some schools would encourage the students to put the gravitational in front, but it is not required. I repeat, it is not required to put the word gravitational in front. Potential energy by itself is fine, and kinetic energy is obviously the second answer. Again, you notice there, name the main form, then open parenthesis, S, close parenthesis again. So here is another hint to you. If this is written in this manner, chances are two types of energy. So this is something that you must think about. Now, this answer is not, to me, it's quite high order, to be honest with you, because many of us would only think of height. Gravitational potential energy or potential energy in this case is about height. But don't forget, if you look at the question carefully, the diagram is also moving horizontally, which means there is a motion towards the right-hand side. Hence, kinetic energy exists. And do not forget, there was a launch, so there was extra force pushing it forward as well. All right, so this question to me is higher order, but I think from what I recall, most students are able to do this. But I think some of you will worry, is it okay to write gravitational or not include that word gravitational? I can show you potential energy is good enough. All right, next one. There was a request to see the question again. Maybe Teacher Joe, you just show 40A, the diagram again. This is the question, all right? It's in the same PSLE year, 2021. So you can see the beautiful rocket and the ram and the spring, all right? So let's go back to the next one. Back to the
sorry. I know why the request. Sorry, I think I answered one question wrongly. Someone asked if air resistance can be the answer here. Sorry, the air resistance? Yes, at G, yes. It would be at G, right? I go back to the diagram. Because it's at G, all right, so the air resistance cannot be the answer because the rocket isn't moving in the air.
Yes, right. It should be use frictional force at this point in time. Correct. Thank you, teacher.
And there's no wind. Yeah, and there's no wind. Correct. The question stated no wind.
Correct. All right. So there should be no air resistance here. Now, coming back to the last part B, Sammy decided to repeat his experiment on sandpits. Explain how this will help him obtain more accurate results. This question is a double-edged sword. It actually, on one hand, those who got it right, they probably are using certain words. For instance, if we answer it this way, when the rocket lands on the sandpit, it creates a dent, a depression. Now, I know some students will have a problem with these two words. So if you're not comfortable with this word, let's move on to another which serves as a marker or a pointer. I think pointer is a fairly good word. I think most of us would, our students will be able to write this word pointer. If not, for those of you who play some games, you know this thing called the word marker. So that would be enough for the students to answer this question. And then the second part you saw me highlighted in red is called to allow Sammy to measure the distance moved. All right. So this answer is sufficient, but I've seen some good answers as well. For instance, the purpose of the marker, the pointer, is to allow the distance to be confirmed by taking a second measurement if needed. I've seen this answer as well. And I thought, whoever wrote this, hey, this is a very, very strong answer. A student has gone beyond not just the routine answer and come up with something very scientific and very, very clever. And I like that very much. Oh? So look at the red part. I want to bring your attention to sometimes students who want to do comparison, they can. Oh, if it's the hard floor, the rocket can bounce off very quickly as shown in the diagram. And so the measurement at best and estimates. So when they write like this, of course, this student is even higher order. All right, I'll be very impressed to see some of you can come up with answers like this. And I believe some of you truly can. All right. Is that all? No, it is not. Very often in your schools, teachers look at the questions and they will say, oh, are there ways I can improve on the question and stretch my students? So the next couple of slides, I'll show you what I meant. Teacher Joe, can I show the next slide? Here's one of them. It says this. Suggest 2 ways to increase the distance traveled by the plane. And I put a whole series of answers there. Make the plane lighter, or and pull the string further, use a spring with greater elasticity. Now, I put a lot of answers there. Is to tell you there are many ways to increase the distance traveled by the plane if there are no restrictions made. That means it's just a casual question. What can be done? All right. But I purposely look at the third answer that says this: use a spring with greater elasticity, which means you can compress a spring a little bit further. For those of you who understand this topic, means a greater elastic spring constant. That means you can launch it further because the more you suppress the thing, the more it will bounce and then fly off, right? And I was cautious about this. I've seen students who actually include this answer called a strong spring. Okay, there was a question by Pei Wen that says it wasn't it rocket, it's toy rocket, not a rocket. There's no motor, no fire launch. Okay. So now, if the student ever try to stronger spring, please, student, remember this stronger. If you remember P3, it talks about properties of matter. It's about strength. Strength refers to the property where something breaks under stress or under heavy load. This is not about the spring breaking. We're talking about a spring that has high elastic limits that can be stretched further to effect a stronger force to launch. So the word strong, you see the word DNA means do not even answer in this manner. Right? This answer, stronger spring, is definitely incorrect. Never use that. If you want to use the word, use a spring with a greater elasticity. I thought I'd take this opportunity to refresh the students not to use a stronger in this context. In fact, there are other areas you can think about where the student actually uses the word stronger, but this stronger should not be used in this case. And a few other answers there. There's a question that talks about potential energy and only instead of GPE, potential energy is fine. Then there are a few answers which I will not go through in detail. Next slide, please. Okay, now this one is it's an obvious answer, right? Without making modifications set up, so just want to increase the distance traveled by plane. This one is very restrictive. Why I'm doing this is very simple. In case you see the earlier questions, right? I have so many options: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. then this one is only one answer. I'm trying to tell you that in the event that they have only, if it's a multiple choice style of questioning, and the question is saying, oh, before making modifications, what can help to increase the distance traveled by the plane? The answer, there's only one, is to pull the spring further, all right? Pull it back further, and you can launch it, all right? So I hope I've given you a flavor of how to answer these open-ended questions, all right? It's by no means exhaustive. There will be many other sessions that we will have a chance to guide your students. So parents, don't worry. Every year the PSLE comes out, we will prepare them sufficiently. All right. Teacher Joe.
Okay, we got a lot of questions. Let me just clear some of the questions. If there was an answer that was in red, that means without stating the statement. Wait, I think this one. The question was if the answer was the statement in red, bounce off the hard floor without stating the statement in blue. Is that okay? I think yes.
I think I will accept it because there's also
Yeah, I
the
think
second part say, yeah.
Correct.
The distance measure is estimate at best. So that is like answering in the opposite way, but it's still answering the part about measurement. I think it can still be accepted.
Yes. Someone asked if we only do science. No, BlueTree Education does math, Chinese, English. We do all 4 subjects, but today is all about science. And then after that, someone asked if the spring with greater elasticity, is it stiffer or more elastic? Teacher Ming Tong, you want to take this on?
Yeah, it's more elastic. Stiffer means it's very hard to compress. So think about it. If I use a stiff spring versus an elastic spring, students, you must understand that elastic means very easily compressible, very easily stretchable. Stiff means it's so hard to compress, it's so hard to stretch.
Yeah. Hey, well done, children. You've got so many good questions. And then after that, someone asked, does stiff means more EPE, more elastic potential energy? Yes, if the spring is being stretched to the same length.
Correct.
So if now I have a stiffer spring and I have a less stiff spring, and you're able to stretch or compress the stiffer spring to the same length as the more elastic one, of course, because in the first place you have to use more force to put it to that length. Yes.
To breathe. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So no, you can't write stiffer spring for the additional question. It is actually more elastic spring. Okay. Someone asked what is a force. A force in PSLE syllabus is just a push or pull. Okay, Joey, it's just a push or pull. Okay, are you primary 4 or primary 5? You haven't learned about this topic? Yeah, it's quite exciting when you come to primary 6 and learn about forces. Okay, Lisa asks, what if, can I say that Sammy can measure the distance without the part about the pointer and marker? No. Teacher Ming Tong, you want to tell them about the pointer marker being the keyword?
What was the question? What did you say?
Under the Q&A, Lisa asked if can write like Sammy can measure the distance without the marker pointer words.
Oh, and my suggestion is if you don't have the word marker or pointer, you must at least say something about it creates a dent, a depression. You have to, otherwise there's no starting point. Every measurement needs a start and an end. So if you don't mention that, you just say, if the rocket lands on the sandpit so that Sammy can measure the distance, it gives a false impression is that anywhere can be marked. So that is definitely not a strong answer. The comparison is sandpit versus hard floor. So the advantage of the sandpit is that it allows a dent. So I think that is a key point that we must mention because that establishes a pointer. And pointer is not something that's unique to the students. They have seen the pointer because there are some questions talk about a cylinder or measuring cylinder filled with water, and then they use a pin to look at it so that they can have an estimate of the depth of the water or the amount of water in the measuring cylinder. So those are not words that are foreign to the students, but they want to use it in a different context for measuring the amount of water in the measuring cylinder to now measuring the starting point of perhaps on the sandpit for distance to be measured. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I think Teacher Grace helping. How does energy get changed? Energy doesn't get changed, it gets converted or transferred. Okay, change is not the correct keyword, okay, children. All right, just to let you know. What is the direction of the elastic spring force? Are you referring to this question? What's the direction of the elastic spring force? Okay, so I think maybe we do some quick revision. So this here will be the push force. All right, children, the push force to launch the rocket. So the elastic spring force is only exerted when the spring is returning to its original length. So the elastic spring force is always in the opposite direction. Okay, forces are always opposing each other, fighting each other at it. Okay, massa. If not, the world will be not in a balance. All right, okay. So this one is a basic concept, so make sure that you know it. Elastic spring force is always in the opposite direction when the spring is returning to its original length. Okay. In this case, because the spring is stretched, so going opposite. All right. If it's compressed, then it goes up, opposite direction of the compressed or stretched direction. Okay. All right. Any other questions? Okay. If not, Teacher Joe's turn. Okay. Still got a bit more. Are you okay? Still got one more question. Maybe Teacher Ming Thong can help with the Q&A. Another, and you're doing very well. We're halfway already. Actually 2/3 already. Right. Yeah. Well done. Okay, children. Actually, if some of you actually ask how many questions are there in PSLE, so because I assume that a lot of you are primary 6 children, you know, altogether there are 12 OEQ, but each part there can be A, B, C. Okay, so you need to watch your exam stamina. Okay, some of you actually ask me when is this going to end? Okay, not so sure if because you're tired. Okay, it's 1 hour. Okay, seminar, the webinar, sorry. Okay, but your PSL is 1 hour 45 minutes. Okay, so check your stamina. All right, so teacher just going to go on with a little bit more. Okay, so because today our webinar is all about open-ended questions. So you're ready? Yes? Teacher Joe, go on. Okay, everyone's cool. All right. Okay, here. Okay, so these are the challenges that Teacher Ming Tong just also highlighted about the open-ended question. All right. So to answer open-ended questions, parents, if you are listening, please take note, right? You actually need this actually 3 things, okay? Just 3 things. First, your child will need a very firm foundation in the concept, right? Concept is actually the foundation, right, of answering open-ended question well. In general, how do you know that your child's concept is strong? If your child is consistently scoring anything that is 50, above 50 for MCQ, we say that your child's concept is fairly strong. Okay, but for open-ended, right, please take note now, other than the topic concepts knowledge, right, your child must have a very strong concept knowledge for experiment type questions. All right, that is another type of question, which is what we call process skills. And not many children, to be honest, are strong in it. Okay, it takes time to build those knowledge. Science is a content-heavy subject, parents. Science is a content-heavy subject. You need to reinforce, repeat, redo, restate, all the RE. Okay, you have to do that. Okay, you cannot assume that your child will know it right away because there's so much to remember. Right, okay, of course, then the second one is they have to have a very strong vocabulary of keywords, right? So those of the parents who have followed me for a while, you know that I'm a big fan on science spelling, right? So when I first started out as teacher, I actually gave out science spelling to my students. I don't know what happened now, they don't do it because I think it's time, but science spelling is where the keywords vocabulary is formed, okay? Because we don't speak science in our daily life. Like I always say, you know, when the water is spilled, does your child say water gains heat from the surrounding and becomes changes from liquid to gaseous? No, right? Okay, so we don't speak like this. So it's very hard for children to use keywords. All right, and of course the last but not least, right, is this effective strategies and application. All right, so every type of question has its own strategies and application. And this is where we keep doing webinars so that we can also help children who are not BT kids, all right, to get a sense, you know, to be stronger in what is the application and strategies, okay? But if you're BT kid, right, at least you should know ABC technique, all right? You should know what is control setup, CNC, right? You should know how to use my AFB, FatBird, okay? So we teach the children a lot of strategies here, right? So BT kids definitely will know, all right? But if you're not, right, you're welcome to join our webinar and we will share, okay? Follow us on our Facebook and our website. We share a lot, right? Okay, all right, okay. So next one here, all right. So this is a typical paper, a typical question. Okay, I'm just showing you some examples here. So this child here, right, okay, he wrote so much at for the correction. And at first, if you look at his original answer, there's so many cancellation. And it's a very common issue when children who are weak in their concept do, okay? So parents, right, when you look at your child's answer, there's a lot that you can tell. If your child cancels a lot, it's not that your child is lazy or your child is untidy, okay? The underlying screaming by your child is, Mommy, Daddy, I don't know how to do, or I'm not so sure if my answer is correct. A confident child will not cancel like this, okay? So you can see that from this child, it has cancellation like 2 or 3, so that's quite a lot. This is a P4 question, okay? So the mistake is also when the child is unable to apply the right technique, okay? This is an explain with a choice question, right? Right. And also, all right, here, the child didn't give the correct concept. So the child is actually also weaker in concept, okay? All right, so here, right, the advice is, of course, practice. Yeah, practice makes perfect, okay? Our children don't have exams as parents, okay? So that one is a very big thing about practice, because no exam, so the children don't get to practice as much. And also, science, right, is the subject with the least number of periods in school. So the homework is also the least. Okay, our children seldom get science homework. And when they get it, it's always in a big chunk, right? Suddenly. So you have to help your child. Okay, so suggestion is, okay, if you can, all right, every week, just do 2 or 3 questions, at least get that momentum, consistency going, okay? And also have a checklist, okay? So BlueTree does have our keyword book, which is actually sold on our website, okay? Keyword book, okay? So the keyword book, right, will actually tell your child, all right, if the keywords have been applied, okay? So this is the first one now. So parents, there's a lot that you can do. First, okay, you can use the technique ABC, practice, all right, practice with ABC. Second, all right, you can go through the keyword book and check if the keywords have been applied. So in this case, the keyword is like block the amount of light. Okay, next one. Okay, another common question, water and its 3 states, right? My child was doing this yesterday, the homework, and I was shocked. After 15 MCQ, her brain also went jelly. She actually asked me, Mommy, so water vapor is the same as water droplets. I looked at her and said, oh, we have to go back to consistency after the June holidays. Okay, so here, okay, so you look at the child's answer, okay, parents, all right, students, you look at the answer. Seems to have keyword, right? Lost heat, condensed, warm water vapor. But why wrong? Why is this child's answer wrong? Not even a half a mark. Because there's too many missing keywords. Water vapor in the surrounding air. Touches the cooler outer surface area. Lost it to what? Right, Teacher Joe's favorite song. Gain heat from and lose it to, and gain heat from and lose it to. Lose it to what? Right, you must write. Condenses into what? So there's a lot of what. So when I mark, I have to mark wrong. Okay, so there's too many missing keywords, okay? And there's no referencing, a lot of missing key information like in the surrounding air, water droplets. And the child was also not able to use the answering technique. So answering technique for water and its 3 states, right, which is also very commonly used in school, is WCLCW. Okay, wildcats love chicken wings. So if your child knows this, okay, you'll be okay, all right? So advice again, keywords, must know the keywords for this topic. Okay, must also read the answer again. Okay, so yeah, the evidence and the concepts were not really there. So the child also didn't slow down to find the concept. Okay, is this something that you face, children, when you're writing the answer? Yeah, is that something you face? Okay, the first thing that you have to do, right, children, is always find the evidence. Okay, don't be so in a rush, okay, to write out your answers. Oh, someone say no, very good. Good job. That means you have been writing very good answers. Okay. All right. Another one. Okay. So the final advice, if you want to write your open-ended question, right, is these three things which teacher Ming Thong just now has demonstrated. Identify the key topics and concept, very important. Highlight the key information. Teacher Ming Thong did that. He also highlighted the key question term. Okay. He also used the answering technique or whatever technique that your school has advised you. Okay. You can still do it, right? But these three strategies, children, you will not be able to do it in 3 days or 2 weeks. Impossible, okay? You must practice. So if you are P4, well done. Okay, you start early. You do strategy 1 first. Every time when you have a question, you state your key topic. Question, state your key topic, okay? Once you're very good with strategy 1, then you go to strategy 2, okay? So those of you who are in PSLE, you must at least be at strategy 1, 2, 3 compliant. You're already strategy 1, 2, 3. Well done there, okay? Are you? Okay, take a picture for this, okay? So this one will help you at least in your revision, okay? So you must remind yourself. Parents can take a picture and then you can actually cut into parts and put at your child's study table, okay? So you can do this. Did you? You know, like when we go out, people will try to remind us, you can remind your child. Did you identify the key topic? Did you highlight the key info? Did you use the right answering strategy? Did you use the right keywords? Okay. So this one, okay, try this. All right. Okay. Next one. Okay. So parents, if you are watching, you can also do this. Okay. Like I say, okay. So you can do all these things with your child. Okay. So this is an example of the work that I did with my child. Okay. So you can see, I purposely asked her to highlight, you know, I purposely asked her to identify the key topic, okay? And I asked her to write down what is the concept, okay? So it's very slow and painful, but I can tell you that I think my child is going to be very strong in this topic, okay? So hard work does pay off for science, okay? Cool? Okay, so how many questions did I do? I didn't do a lot of questions. I just picked up maybe 5 questions to do it with her, yeah, until I think that she has some consistency. So usually recommended I take about 30 minutes of revision time only. Yeah, I only do 30 minutes of revision time with my children. Okay, and my children every day they have a chance to go and play with their friends. Okay, they can go and catch tadpoles, they can go and jump around, yeah, including my girls, they want to catch fish, okay, catch grasshopper also can, whatever they want to catch, go cycling. Yeah, we live very near the sea. So we go to build sandcastles almost every day. Okay, so there's time, right? It's just that parents, you have to be very consistent and try to set a good schedule that your child can follow. Okay, just 30 minutes can do one. Not 30 minutes every day. Yeah, 30 minutes every week. Yes. Okay, PSLE kids, of course, no. Okay, your PSLE is in 9 weeks' time. So you got to put in a lot of effort, right? Okay. 50 pages of science. Your mother has to do 50 pages of science. How do you finish that? Oh, nah, you can. After PSLE, you can. Okay, well done, Anne, if you are doing that so good. Okay. All right. So this is another wonderful feedback for BlueTree Education. Okay, so we are very good at what we are doing. We know how to get your child to improvement. All right. And so like we showed just now, okay, we know all these strategies. Okay, and then we will try. Oh, teacher Faith is here. Ha ha ha. Okay, come. Okay. Okay, so we want to invite you, PSLE children, all right, to join us for our master class that's happening in August, all right, okay, master class, okay, come and join us. And it's going to happen on Thursday, 24th August or 25th August, 7:30 to 9, okay, Thursday for science, Friday for math. So if you like the way teacher Ming Thong and I have shared how to answer science questions, you must definitely come, okay? And this one here, we will actually send you the learning materials, all right? And we will also answer your question, okay? And there'll be solution booklets given as well, right? And it'll be personally taught by myself and teacher Faith, okay? We are only doing for 45 students, okay? Exclusive group, yes, it's online. A master class is online because it's 7:30 to 9, okay? Teacher Faith and I, we need to be at home. If I never come home by 7, my children will call me. Okay, so I have to be at home, okay? All right, okay. My husband will cry also. He will be, hello dear, are you coming home? All right, okay. So once the enrollment is filled, we won't be taking in. Okay, it's already starting. We have already starting. We put it on our website for the parents to register already. Okay, so I'm not so sure how many slots were left, but it has already started. Okay, so for the children today, thank you for attending. Okay, one subject is $85.60, inclusive of GST. Okay, inclusive of GST. And two subject is at 149, all right, 60 cents. We will give a $21.60 off. Actually, it's actually $20 off, but because of GST, okay? So there is GST, okay? So join us, and then like I said, all right, the solution booklets will also be given, right? Thank you everybody for attending today, and I hope to see you very soon at BlueTree. Do follow us on our Facebook and Instagram. Leave us a Google review, please, about today's webinar. Okay, can just easily find us BlueTree Education and leave us a good review. Okay, that is our best thank you for today. All right, Teacher Ming, anything?
It's a very enjoyable discussion with the parents and students. I'm so happy to see some of the questions asked. I replied to some of you individually. So, so look at the responses and let's continue to work this journey together, okay, parents and students. So take this opportunity to learn. And I really encourage you to see science in a very positive light. Don't be discouraged when you hit a bump. It is only temporary. If you work hard, at the end of the tunnel, you see the rainbow, all right?
Wow, I love what teacher Ming Thong shared. Yes, always be positive. Yes, there'll be a recording for the master class. Yes, there'll be some difference, but there'll be some overlapping question as well. Okay, so some of you have asked, is this different from the past master classes? There'll be some difference, but there'll be some overlap because all the questions we use are going to be PSLE questions. Okay. Right. So if you have already joined us previously, you may not want to join us this year. It's okay. Right. We want your child to benefit. Ultimately, your child must benefit, okay, and learn from us. Okay. And we're doing this because we want to support your child to answer very well for PSLE and to score the best possible grades. Okay. We give very good PSLE compliant answers. Okay, because we have been markers before, so we know, right, what is expected on the papers, right? Yes, thank you everybody. Thank you, Teacher Ming Thong. Good night. Thank you. Remember to leave us a good review, okay?
Okay, good night, everyone.